Welcome back to the Civilnet podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Elliott. I'm joined today by the head of the Union of Informed Citizens, Mr. Ioanissyan. Mr. Ioanissyan, I've been actually following your anti-corruption work for a long time, so I'm happy that we're finally sitting down and doing this. More specifically, though, you're working with the police, with the Interior Ministry, in order to enact police reform. And just to give some context to our viewers, our listeners, the reason this meeting is taking place actually is because we had yet another tragic car accident last weekend, and it's to the point now where they're actually up. The car accidents are up, the roadside deaths are up, the what do you call them? Car injuries are up, and it's something like 30-35% are actually children. It's minors. So it's just a staggering loss of life. We're approaching on 400 deaths per year on our roads. And it's unacceptable. So what is going on with the police? We had the fancy new traffic police. A couple years ago, they looked really nice. They weren't smoking on the job. They were professional. What's going on? Are they slacking?
Well, I guess I should give a long answer to a short question. In any country, police so there are kind of two models of police. Democratic model and let's call it non-democratic model or authoritarian model. In authoritarian model countries, police is a entity that is kind of enforcing the governor's will. Governors, kings, whoever, however it is called. That's what was the police for centuries. Police, or however that was called, was made to enforce the governor's or the king's will. But in democratic society, that's not what police is doing. In democratic society, police is serving citizens. So it's a kind of service. It's kind of service. We're paying taxes to have police that is serving us, that is doing whatever our needs are. So in Armenia is more or less democratic. I mean, we're far not happy with the level of democracy we have, but we have electoral democracy, and we have kind of government that is elected, maybe with not ideal elections, but still elected.
The credit where it's due, the progress is visible even with this new police, but it's still the standards are higher. That's why we want answers.
And so based on that, we should think that now we should have a police that is serving citizens, like providing services to citizens, to society, while in a mind of many high-ranking police officers, still they have this Soviet mind, this old school mind, and they think that police is to enforce something, just to enforce something, not to serve. And because of that, we can see many results, many impacts on methodology, on how do they work. Do they think citizen is an enemy or citizen is an ally? Do they think that how should they work with a citizen who is calling them and telling that there is a certain crime or illegal activity having somewhere? How should they perform the same road control? We can see that on the roads in Armenia, police officers are considered as an enemy by the society. People are blinking to each other with headlights when they see police, like notifying each other that there is an enemy. And this is, in democratic society, it could look as a strange thing because we are paying that police officer from our taxes for him to be there, but at the same time we are blinking each other to notify that there is an enemy.
To be fair, it's like this in Canada too, by the way. You will have this. There's always going to be this kind of sneaky cat and mouse game with the police.
Yes, but it's the issue of scale. It's the issue of perception. Yeah. And when we see police officers who are just just writing tickets because they need to fulfill some threshold of quota for tickets or citations. That's an environment where police officer and me as a driver have not much in common. Yeah. But when we see police officer who is really acting to prevent road accidents, to prevent the hard so-called heavy results of traffic accidents, that's another environment.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we can see more the first situation. And that's the main problem with the police reform. That's the main problem with police reform, which is also impacting road safety. Yeah. We can see that police is writing a bunch of citations, a very big...
You see them on the highways outside of Yerevan. When I was driving to Vanadzor not too long ago, I was actually surprised. Every couple hundred meters, you had a police car that had pulled somebody over for speeding. They're doing their job there. But in Yerevan, I don't understand what's going on.
I won't say that they're doing their job properly.
Well, they're doing their job. I didn't say they're doing it right or wrong, but I can see them pulling over cars.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we have something like 3,000 patrol police officers, and out of those 3,000, 750 are at each moment on the streets of Armenia.
Yeah.
So this is. So you would see patrol police officers on the streets in Yerevan and outside. Yeah. But I mean, sometimes they're very, very inefficient. Writing a citation, pulling over someone for traffic violation is not the only, I would say it's not the main indicator of their work. Sometimes they can, for example, they can hide in some certain point where people are violating the speed limit, where people are speeding, and just catch everyone and write a citation, independently if this part of road is it really secure or it's not, because we have many spots where traffic, where speed limits are not adequate. Yeah. I mean, there are roads where speed limit is 30 kilometers per hour, but as a driver, I can say that 150 is a safe speed there for more or less experienced driver. But the speed limit is 30. No one is driving 30. Literally, no one is driving slower than let's say 80 or 90. Yeah. Because people are adequate. Sometimes they evaluate the risks. And of course you can hypothetically see a patrol police officer hiding somewhere there and catching everyone and writing a bunch of citations. But is that what they should do to prevent car accidents or to prevent kind of heavy results of car accidents? I don't really think so. But there are things that they should do and they're not. For example, following seatbelts, car seats for children. You mentioned that
it's been a law since 2019.
Yeah, almost a third of deaths on the road are children. Yep. That's terrible. Yep. That's first of all because of two reasons: car seats, absolute absence of car seats. I mean, I guess less than 1% of children in this country are traveling in car seats. But that's just, I mean, there is no even statistics on that. And also some problems with the school because, I mean, in any European country, you would see that in schools, police officers are visiting schools and explaining to children some road regulations that apply to pedestrians, to explain why is it important, how is it important, to explain, for example, I can remember when I was in Germany in my fourth degree in school, fourth grade in school, police even brought a big truck to our school. And all of us, we've seated on a driver's seat to see that there are certain zones that truck driver is not seeing. In order to learn the lesson that if I am standing just in front of the truck, the truck driver isn't seeing me. I should be careful. And many other things. That's also important. That is also something that police should do.
Yeah.
It's not just about like pulling over and finding. That's not the concept.
Yeah.
But we can't see such things in Armenia. Unfortunately, they're not doing it. They're not explaining.
Yeah, it's a carrot and a stick situation.
They could fine you for not fastening the seatbelt, but they are not doing that.
Yeah.
How can you be serious on them?
Well, I mentioned smoking, right? It's a lack of discipline. You're wearing a uniform. Am I smoking in the podcast room? I don't smoke at work. I don't care that you're a police officer and you're standing outside. You're working. You're wearing the uniform. You're representing the citizen. How am I supposed to take you seriously if you're on your phone and you got a cigarette in your mouth?
Of course. And how? I mean, when someone is being fined for driving without fastened seatbelt, I mean, how that someone can be serious on that if he's being fined by a police officer who is not fastening seatbelt?
Yeah.
Come on, fastening seatbelt has nothing to do with your uniform. In a car accident, you're gonna die as any other person. You have the same body. You have this car with the same specifications, and you are on the same road. You're gonna die equally with the equal probability as any other person. Yeah, of course, hypothetically, there could be situations where police officers should drive without fastened seatbelts in a very, very rare situations. That's normal. That can be, but it shouldn't be kind of the main way of. So that's that's a problem. And citizen who is being fined for not fastening seatbelt by a police officer who is not fastening seatbelt, he or she wouldn't take this serious. He or she wouldn't consider that it is because of doing something dangerous. They would consider that, okay, this is because of I am weak and he's powerful, and that's the reason why am I paying for this.
So they're not understanding the societal responsibility that comes with it. The understanding that it's your safety, you might hit someone. Of course,
because it can't be considered as a safety issue when it is enforced by someone who is violating that.
Yeah.
So that's why I have told you the long story about the concept of police. Police, it's a service that is enforcing something, or police is a service that is serving to citizens or society. Yeah. So this conceptual difference is also leading to problems regarding road safety, problems regarding many other things, and also when it comes to road safety, we should consider that usually there are three factors that are impacting road safety. One is so-called behavior of drivers. Another is conditions of transport vehicles. And third is infrastructure. And we have problems with all of those three factors.
Yeah.
We should, and also I should say that yes, during the last, let's say, 10, 15 years, the problems with the condition of vehicles is incomparably better. Yeah. Simply because we have now newer cars, because we have now, and the newer, the better, the safer, because new cars have more safety features.
Electric vehicles are now on the road because there's no import tax. So you have 10% of cars now that are these nice
Volkswagen many of those electric vehicles are having some accident prevention mechanisms and so on, and airbags and many things. By the way, again, considering airbag is something very, very important and very good, and it saved the life of my own mother some 9 years ago. But it's working properly only with the fastened driver or passenger. That's also important. So whatever. So let's say that the component with the condition of transport vehicles is better, but the condition of infrastructure and the behavior of drivers is still quite problematic. And there are many reasons. With infrastructure, that's another field. That's other ministry, other people, and also other experts that you should talk to. Not expert on that. But with police, it's mainly two components. It's the road controlled by patrol police, so they should control on what's happening on the roads, and also tests for driving licenses. When I was getting my driver license, I didn't drive a car, because at that examination point, they had no working car for testing people. So I've paid the tax. I have paid two taxes: tax for theoretical exam, tax for practical exam. I've passed the theoretical exam, but I didn't pass the practical exam because they didn't have a car. They just at that point, with everyone, they were just signing that, okay, you have passed the.
Well, I know people who paid for their driver's license, who bribed.
Yeah, and there are many people who are just bribing and buying driver's license, and there are many. That's.
But I thought they cracked down on that a couple of years ago. Like in 2021, they supposedly were enforcing it. Is that still the case?
I mean, it is still the case, but when we talk about quantity, it's uncomparably less.
Okay.
I mean, yes, within last, let's say, 5 years, the average knowledge of people who are getting driver's license is better. Has become.
You're seeing
higher.
student cars now, and I'm starting to see them much more often.
Yeah.
Like they have the little triangle and driving students. Of course, no one lets them pass. Everyone is aggressive around them. I feel sorry for them, but you're starting to see a lot more of them. I'm surprised at how often I'm seeing people.
Yeah, and that's
learning.
normal. That's how it should be, because I can remember some 15, 20 years ago. Also, when I was getting my driver, no one was going to. I mean, I'm not sure if there were some car schools. Yeah, you would meet a couple of small, very small car schools. Usually one car, one driver. So that's the scale of the school, and no one was going to that, let's say, institutional way of learning how to drive a car. And all those people have driving licenses now. They're all driving. They're all, and that's also impacting. So police should be able to do that. Police should have a vision on how do they deal with that.
Okay, this leads us to the second important topic of this conversation. Why don't they have that vision? So we saw news very recently that apparently it's the United States that's actually taking a lead on helping us reform our police. And they're building essentially 4 police branches, which means that they're going to be phasing out the old Soviet officers and so on. You already have the patrol police, and you have an investigation unit, and you have 2 other ones. But and they've already begun recruitment for these. So what's going on? Like what's missing here? Since you're on the inside, give us an idea of why this isn't sinking in and we're not seeing these tangible benefits.
Yeah, we have internationals who are engaged in police reform. We have Americans, first of all. Now, very recently, France is now interested in being engaged in police reform.
We don't want to learn from the French police. Thank God.
We have European Union. We have some other actors, and the problem is still with on how the police leadership sees the reform. What do they think the reform should be? Do they think that people should be afraid of police officers, or do they think that people should respect police officers for the service to the society that they're serving?
And what have you seen as the opinion of the leadership?
Of course, the first one. That's the result we can see. We can see in many fields. Unfortunately,
so
the first one.
You famously quit, right?
And when you say what's their vision, Unfortunately, the level of competence in police leadership is so low that many of them don't even know what vision is. They literally don't know what is vision. They know that, okay, I have the order, I should do the order, that's it. Or I should pretend that I'm doing order, or I should that's the only thing that they know, many of them. Of course, there are I have seen competent police officers. I have seen competent high-ranking police officers. I know that there are some competent people in the police leadership, but they are in a very strong minority.
It's essentially the same problem we had with the army up until fairly recently, it sounds like. But Daniel, you famously left as part of the reform program with the Interior Ministry. Can you tell us?
The Police Reform Coordination Council. We've left it almost 2 years ago when Vahe Ghazaryan was appointed as Minister of Interior.
Is it in protest at his appointment?
I wouldn't say that it is a protest because we worked with him as a head of police. So before 2023, we had no Minister of Interior, that was police and head of police, and Ministry of Justice was responsible for conducting police reform, and Ministry of Justice were trying to do their best, but at the same time we saw a very big resistance from the police, which were led by Mr. Vahe Ghazaryan. When he got appointed when the Minister of Interior was established in January 2023, and when he was appointed as a minister, and when we realized back in those days that, okay, now we have a ministry which is led by which is going to be responsible for the reform, not the Justice Ministry, but the newly established Interior Ministry, and which is led by someone who is resisting the reform. So, what should we do there? You can work with the reform when you disagree on many things, but you can't work on a reform with the people who are against the reform. That's not the way it can work. So yeah, that's why we left the coordination council, but not the whole reform. I mean, we're still engaged in many parts of reform. For example, police attestation process. For example, a couple of other councils which are there. So we are still in a reform, I would say.
There's the rumors going around is that the reason that a lot of these very basic things, like enforcing the existing traffic laws, the seatbelt laws, and so on, like really working on this with the police, is twofold, right? It's that because of the threat of war, we don't want to upset the people. We want the police to stay loyal. So what do you think of this?
It's not only about conflict. Of course, you should consider the conflict. Of course, you should consider the problems with Russia. Yeah. Because this country have seen situation where almost all military generals are going against the government in February 2021. Yeah. So we have
and not one of them is sitting in jail, just by the way. In any normal country, all of these guys would be in jail.
Yeah, but the problem is that in that situation, we could end up without having any military general.
It tells you just how co-opted our military leadership has been by Russia.
Yeah, and in such environment, when you don't know what and when Russians would do, I mean, to impact internal situation in Armenia, having a police that first wouldn't join that possible coup or anything like that, and second, which is like better would stay loyal, is a crucial. And in that environment, what the government thinks, what Nikol Pashinyan thinks, is that Vaher Azaran is very successful on that. Because in 2020-21, he managed to keep the system loyal. Some people are saying, is that because of Vaher Azaran is loyal? No, whoever is appointed would be appointed as a minister of interior. Of course, he or she should be loyal. I mean, when we have a single party government formed by a single party, because a single party has majority in parliament, of course, everyone would be loyal to prime minister. I mean, that's normal, I would say. Yeah. But it's not about loyalty of the minister. It's about ability of minister on keeping the system loyal. Because back on those days, in 2021, February, Minister of Defense was loyal to the government. Minister himself was loyal, but generals were not loyal to the minister. He failed to keep them loyal.
Yeah.
At least not. And under loyal, I don't mean that they should be loyal to a ruling party. No, I mean people in uniform shouldn't be loyal to any party, but they should be loyal to the
Constitution.
To the Constitution, and they shouldn't go. They shouldn't engage in politics.
Yeah,
that's very important. So yeah, and you know. You've mentioned four branches, and yes, the main four branches are patrol police, National Guard, which is, just to clarify from the viewpoint of this term, which has nothing to do with American term of National Guard, because in America, National Guard is something absolutely other. National Guard is a police force which is responsible for, let's say, crowd control, protection of strategic objects, like, for example, nuclear power plant and so on. And under crowd control, I mean both protests and also big other events like, for example, football matches or things like that, where also there could be mass gathering and mass disorders.
Like the Red Berets right now, basically.
Not only. Now we have so-called police troops, which is absolutely a Soviet thing. And the main point of the reform is not having troops, but to having a police unit, because there are troops that are just under Ministry of Interior instead of Ministry of Defense. But they are troops. I mean, their main armament is machine guns, RPGs, and things that have nothing to do with the crowd control.
This is OMON, like the equivalent of OMON?
So Red Berets are equivalent to OMON, but police troops are equivalent to
SWAT teams.
To SWAT teams, to crowd control teams in different countries. That there are different solutions. This National Guard is more European term. In France, in Spain, Russia is a bad example, but in Russia also they're called National Guard. The third. So I've mentioned the first one is patrol police. Second one is National Guard. Then it comes criminal police and municipal police. So criminal municipal police are responsible for. So criminal police is responsible for combating crime, and mainly they should focus on heavy crimes. So light crimes. Non-heavy crimes and other non-heavy crimes. I mean,
non-violent crimes.
No, it could be also violent, but I mean any crimes that have maximum punishment less than 5 years imprisonment.
Oh, okay.
Not more than 5 years imprisonment. So that's kind of a criminal law terminology. So those crimes are gonna be dealt by municipal police. And also, municipal police would have other duties like prevention, like many other duties. So that's the main four branches of police. And I should say that even Americans are not engaged in all of them because they fear some problems with some branches, and they don't want to involve in those parts of the reform where serious human rights violations could happen. So Americans, not only Americans, are quite careful with choosing where they are and where they are not. That applies also to us. When we see that in some certain, for example, we are not engaged in criminal police formation process. We were engaged in patrol police formation process, but not criminal police. And that's because with patrol police, we knew that what we are doing. We knew that, of course, there are going to be problems. Of course, there are going to be problematic appointments. Of course, there are going to be... I mean, there is a patrol police officer who committed several robberies in his village, I guess village of Mourni or maybe other, in Aragatsatan region. And there is my signature under his decision of being appointed, including my signature. So yes, I mean, at the beginning...
Why did you approve him?
Because we didn't know that he's gonna be a criminal.
So he has robberies now in uniform.
Yeah. Of course.
He had a criminal record when he applied.
No.
But is this guy still?
We don't take anyone.
Is he still walking around on patrol, or is he?
No. He's under pretrial detention, and
okay.
No.
Okay, well, as long as it's like no one thinks that they're going to be perfect, but as long as there's
of course. I mean, we've when you're trying to hire 3,000 people, and we were on a board. I was a member of the hiring commission. Other representatives of NGOs were also on the board of interviewing commissions. So, of course, you can make mistakes.
Yeah.
But when you hire 3,000 people, there are gonna be criminals among those 3,000. Of course, it's about quantity. Yeah. It's about is it 1 or 2 persons, or is it 100 persons? But still, you know that there are going to be mistakes. You know that there are going to be things that you should say sorry for that to society, and what we did for appointing that guy. But still, you know that generally it's going to be a good process. Until I think that patrol police reform is a good process. But in criminal police, I was not sure that it's going to be a good process.
Isn't that worse if you guys aren't involved? Isn't that like scary now that the guys that are going to be coming out of this process have no oversight, no?
You know, there is a point in that criticism, but at the same time, you know, I don't want to take responsibility on hiring people who may beat acting lawyers in in police stations. I don't want to hire. I don't want to be engaged in hiring patrol police officer criminal police officers who may conduct other crimes. I don't want to share that responsibility. Pardon me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, I know that most probably that if civil society would be on board, they may be a little bit better. But that would be also of great impact to the public trust towards civil society. Come on, who do you have hired? So our kind of expectation was that with criminal police, it's going to be quite problematic. So we don't want to be there. With patrol police, there is still a lot of criticism with patrol police. The way they talk to citizens is worse than the way the previous road police was talking to citizens. That's true. But that's the result because we've hired mainly new people. For example, in Yerevan, 70% of patrol police officers have never been in any law enforcement before that, before being appointed as patrol police officer. And of course, someone who served as a law enforcement for a decade at least knows with whom they should talk in which manner better than someone who is just a guy from a village who is appointed as a patrol police officer. But that was a dilemma that we had, and we made a clear decision that we don't want to have previous corrupt police officers, because it's better to have police officers who may not really know how to talk to people, to talk in a kind of respected manner, who may have some other problems, but at least they're not corrupt. So that was a clear no for us. If we thought that someone is corrupt, that is a no, however good or professional he is. And that's but still, with patrol police we also face some problems. A couple of years ago, when they just started operating, they didn't care who you are as driver. They're gonna do whatever they're obligated to do by the law, whatever the law says them to do. They don't care who the driver is. It could be head of law enforcement agency, and there were such cases. It could be a member of parliament from ruling team.
Well, didn't they find Tigran Avinyan's driver not too long ago? Some issue with his car, or he was speeding, I don't remember.
I don't remember with Tigran Avinyan. I know that they took a driving license from one of the ruling party MPs.
Yeah, good.
I know that they wrote a citation to one of the heads of law enforcement agencies. I know that, so that was...
It's a big success.
That was a big success. Once I've parked on a wrong spot, and they just pulled my car and wrote me a citation. And that was normal, because previously, when road police officers saw that, okay, this is Daniel Ioanissyan's car, so let's keep far away from that. Let's turn around and pretend that we haven't seen that this car is parked on a wrong place. So that was very good. That was literally how we thought they should work. But during time, the traditions that we had in police, not in the newly established patrol police, but generally in the police, they took over, and now you would see patrol police officers who are just turning around and pretending that they don't see the violation when it is someone dangerous, someone important, even someone problematic, someone with power. So, for example, you would see on a Vazgen-Sargsyan Street, that's an ideal indicator for me. On Vazgen-Sargsyan Street, where is the prosecutor's office, you would see cars parked in a second line, sometimes in a third line, absolutely terrible things. Always, like 100 meters from Republic Square, but always like dozens of cars parked in illegal way. In any other spot of the Yerevan, they will evacuate those cars. But because of this is in front of prosecutor's office, they're literally afraid to do that. They were doing that at the beginning of their service. In 2021, 2022, they were doing that. And you wouldn't see almost no illegally parked car in front of prosecutor's office, in front of other law enforcement agencies. But now that's not the case. You could see many cars with who are parked in wrong spots. If those are like law enforcement cars, you could see that, for example, on the intersection of Khanjan and Nalbanjan streets, where there are all the law enforcement agencies. You would see like the whole spectrum of illegal parking on parking on a pedestrian path, parking on a
terrible.
You would see everything and
or blocking highway exits as they each try to. It's really the parking situation in the city is absolutely terrible. But
in that part where law enforcement agencies are concentrated, illegal parking is very, very popular, and patrol police officers are now absolutely ignoring that situation.
But does that imply that there's extra institutional pressure on them? In other words, that these other agencies are putting pressure on the Interior Ministry?
Yes. It's not only about. That's not the pressure. That's their traditions they have. You know, patrol police or any police is interacting with other law enforcement agencies, and they wanna have good relations. And sometimes good relations doesn't mean having good institutional cooperation. Sometimes it means that I'm not writing you a citation for a traffic violation, and you are not, I don't know, making another headache for me. Because there was a situation where patrol police officers, for example, investigator who is fined by patrol police officer for drunk driving or something like that. He's calling a patrol police officers to give testimonies and make them wait for, I don't know, for half a day. Make them wait in front of his office for half a day, like revenging for that. So that's the environment, that's the situation. It's very, very, you know, the whole environment is very uninstitutional. It's very, very problematic. And unfortunately, still it is better than it was before.
Yeah, it's important to keep that into context. But still.
Yeah, but that's. We have seen that they could be better. We have seen in 2021, 2022. Yeah. Because otherwise we could think that, okay, this is Armenia, we can't have better.
That's the maximum
we can have. But no, we can have better. We have seen better, and we know that they can be better.
But you have international examples. This is what I don't understand about Armenians, is that you have Armenians think, and I'm saying this as an Armenian, but they think they have the answers. It's like Armenia is somehow magically unique, and we can't learn from other countries because, we know better. Poland, after communism, their police was so tainted. It was so hated by the populace. They fired all of them, and they started an entirely new police system. Georgia, I don't like the Georgian police, and of course nowadays they're terrible. But in Saakashvili's time, it took him 3 weeks. He fired absolutely everybody. They were measuring the collars to make sure he didn't have fat police officers. And for a while, that country just shot up. The crime was just going down. You had a lot of institutional trust. So we have examples, even in our own neighborhood, of what's possible. So the lack of institutional will is it's embarrassing, honestly.
You know, even in Georgia, riot police is problematic. They have done problematic things, mainly in the beginning of this year. But when we talk about, for example, patrol police in Georgia, it is still quite trusted by society. Yeah. It is, they know what they're doing. They are efficient, and they have public support. Mm-hmm. So even in Georgia, there is, I wouldn't say that there is a big backslide kind of with patrol police. Yeah. If we consider police in general, because of riot police, there are some problems. But when we go into details, we could see that there is a quite successful patrol police, which is still successful, which is still very efficient, and which is still very trusted by society, and which is still, people consider that patrol police officers are their friends on roads, not enemies. So Georgia, Ukraine, Poland, of course, but the problem is that in all of those countries, they had police leadership who shared the values of reform. Well, we don't. With the criminal police, we haven't covered that issue within our conversation, but there are very serious problems. Do you know what's the percentage of killers, of people who committed murder in this country who are sent to prison?
Something like 20%, right?
25%. So 3 out of 4 murderers are not standing in front of court in this country.
But I saw that was partially due to long wait times in the justice system, not because they were found innocent and clear.
No. I'm not talking about being, sent to prison or being committed, being convicted. I'm just talking about people whom the law enforcement system is able to catch, to find evidences on the evidences that particular person have committed that murder case, and get him to court. Whatever court is doing, that's another story, and that's not my, not within my professional capacity, the court. But law enforcement should be able on catching people who have committed crimes and finding evidence that those people have committed crimes and getting them to court. Whatever happens in the court, that's another story, which has its own problems. Yeah. So just 25%. With other 75%, they're not able to catch them or not able to find proper evidences.
In a tiny country where everyone knows everyone.
Sure.
But don't you think there's cultural elements to this too? I'll tell you one case that stuck out to me that really bothered me. And that really, it really made me rethink a lot of myths that Armenians tend to hold dear, right? So we keep hearing Armenia is one of the safest countries in the world. I don't believe that anymore. I really don't. I think that a lot of the crimes are just not reported. And you had this case last year in Gyavar, in the village of Gyavar, where a family were abusing their children sexually, and they were filming them, and they were essentially selling child porn, and everybody knew. And instead of doing something about it, instead of trying to protect these kids, the parents were petitioning the school to expel these kids so that they would stay away from their own children. This is something that's so horrible and so disgusting. And it really shook me to my core. And I'm seeing, and you have more cases. You had somebody in Armavir a couple months ago at a kindergarten. Somebody filmed that the teacher, the woman, was beating up a kid because he didn't want to go to sleep. You had the video of this. And the co-workers, love achchika, it's okay, we'll let her off. Like, no, it's a crime. She should be in jail. I don't care if she's your friend or your neighbor.
The problem is the problem is quite wide. To some extent, it is cultural, like gorz të vohqem.
There's don't ask, don't tell kind of policy. Which it hurts us.
This is. We thought it is quite wide. This cultural thing, until the point we had the results of a social survey that we've ordered to a professional team on those issues, because in February this year we've ordered a social survey to understand very details of the problems behind the lack of will of cooperation between citizens and law enforcement. To which extent is it this gorz të vohqem, and to which extent other problems? And we discovered that it's not so much cultural as it is objective.
What do you mean?
There were many. So I would tell a little bit about the results of that survey. Within that survey, we've asked citizens if they have been in a situations, and we're listing kind of the situations where it is logical to call the police, like seeing a crime or any other similar situation. And 60% of people who have been in such a situations, they didn't call police. We went asking those people why they didn't call the police, and just 15%, so 15 out of 60%, said that it is because of cultural thing. They don't gorz të vohqem this. All others, other 85%, again 85 out of 60 who didn't report, was quite logical and objective reasons not to call police. Like, I'm gonna have another headache because of that. This is gonna be unresolved for unfruitful. Police would blame me for something, and that type of quite objective reasons. And a couple of years ago, 10 years ago actually, I was driving on a road, and I've seen some hooligans who broke the real glass of a taxi that was in front of my car. And then a driver stopped the car. The taxi driver stopped the car, and he ran behind those hooligans. And I mean, as a citizen, I called police. I've said that I've described the situation. So 55 minutes after that, and the nearest police department is 850 meters from that point. 55 minutes after that, a police officer arrived, and it was something like, first they start asking me, why did you call police instead of running behind them? Like, and then what they did, they took that taxi car so they started an investigation. They took that taxi car as evidence for a couple of months. So that taxi driver, he lost a glass which price is some 30,000 drams, maybe 50,000 drams. That was not an expensive car, because of hooligans. But he was not able to make his money on living for a couple of months because of a car was under investigation. Within the investigation, the car was taken as an evidence, and he was blaming me like, "Come on!" He was telling that I've did worse thing to him than those criminals by calling the police.
So it's a mistrust.
And then I was asking police officers, like, come on, can you just close that case and give that car back to that taxi driver? He's he's a father of family. He should make his money with this car. In that situation, would I or him or any other person who is aware of that call the police in a similar situation next time? No. So it's objective reason. It's not cultural. If someone is robbing, I don't know, mirrors or other parts from your car, mirrors, I don't know, wheels, headlights, which is quite popular in Yerevan, unfortunately. Would those people call police?
No.
Most probably no, because they know that police is not gonna get their headlights back. But they know that they're gonna at least spend days on that, days on giving testimonies, and then against testimonies, and then more testimonies, and then getting the car to examination, and then that, and then other, and so on. And that's the best scenario, because also law enforcement could take that car as an evidence and keep that car for months, even for years. I know a guy who brought the car by a loan. So it was for 4 years, a loan for 4 years. Yeah. After half year, he was in an accident, which was not by his fault, absolutely not by his fault. But within that accident, there was someone who got injured. So criminal investigation has been started. His car has been taken as an evidence. He finished paying his loan 4 years. So he used that car just for half year, and then 3.5 years he was paying every month. He was paying for his loan for a car that he's not able to drive. In such environment, we shouldn't expect that people will consider law enforcement as someone who is serving the society.
Daniel, in the interest of time, I want to finish on a positive note. I mean, you're still involved in these reforms, which means that you haven't given up hope. What can you say the future can be like? What kind of positive predictions do you have for police reforms? Will we get out of this impasse, or?
We will get out of that. It's an issue of time. I mean, would that happen in 1 or 2 years, or it should take decades? That's the question. Of course, during the time, I mean, I'm optimistic, and during the time, everything is getting better. At least progress is bringing positive changes during time. But that's I can't predict what would be the speed of the progress. What would be speed of progress in police. Yeah. Because progress with the society, the change of mind of society, the progress in technological progress is also bringing good changes. But how, to which speed it will impact police, it's hard to predict, and it's also it depends on many things. I mean, if Armenia will feel absolutely safe from any interference from Russia, it could go faster, because we could have police leadership changed to someone who are more reform oriented. If the problems with conflict would be, but let's make it clear. I don't want to protect Nikol Pashinyan's decision. I can feel his fears. I agree with his fears, but I disagree with the way he's solving the situation, because I'm pretty sure that having professional police would prevent police from joining any type of coups, from sabotaging against the law or against the order, even more than having just some guy who is able to keep the loyalty of police. You can't appoint someone who is loyal, whose main ability is keeping the loyalty of the system, as a short-term solution. Okay, you have a problem for a couple of months. You can appoint someone like that, and have and at least be sure that you wouldn't have problems with the police loyalty for a couple of months. But this is a short-term solution, which is not working for a long term. For a long term, you should build a normal institution, because when a police is a normal institution, they don't attend in coups. They don't go against constitutional order. They respect the law, and basically that's what you need. Yeah. So I absolutely disagree with Pashinyan's way of kind of solving this problem.
Yeah. Well, Daniel Ioanissyan, thanks again for joining us on Civilnet.
Thank you very much.
Thanks again for watching.